Hi everyone, and welcome back to Light Conversations. If this is your first time you've tuned in, welcome and thank you for joining. I hope you enjoy this episode. I'm your host, 𝗬𝗂 Koçoğlu-Hobden, also known as 𝗬𝗂, and I'm founder of 𝗓𝗄𝗃. I support people to reconnect with their hearts, to unlock the deep wisdom and courage within so that they can remember their purpose. Today, I am beyond excited to introduce my amazing and inspiring guest, who is a modern leader of these modern times, 𝗂𝗍 Mortimer. So 𝗂𝗍 is a retail systems IT consultant turned life consultant, reprogramming minds and hearts. These days, 𝗂𝗍 is an executive coach and personal life mentor to the superwomen of today, the high-performing, overachieving, brilliant women, does that sound familiar? With very full lives who find themselves at a crossroads, in a crisis or challenging time in their career, relationships, health, or working life. 𝗂𝗍 guides her clients with her own unique combination of human design, mindfulness practices, and her compass methodology and harmony principles to create a path that leads to peace and prosperity, maximizing performance in work and increasing joy in life. 𝗂𝗍 shows women what is possible when it comes to experiencing joy and living a beautiful life, a life of bliss and bounty, generosity and fun, despite the highs, lows, and inevitable plot twists in midlife.
Plot twist.
Is where, yeah, exactly. We've got some to share today. This is what she has created for herself after loss and trauma, in finding her way out of darkness into the light, overcoming immense challenges in health, life, work, and love. She has not only created this transformation for herself, but she has made it her life's work to help others do the same.
Wow, that is an interesting and very long, just hearing that back, it's like, gosh, yes, that is me. I'm like, yes, that is me. Yes, I do that. Yes, I do that. Yes, I do that. It all sounds very, very serious. And I think, 𝗬𝗂, you and I, we love to play. We just, let's just start there, because 𝗬𝗂 did the most beautiful blessing for us before we came on here. And 𝗬𝗂 is the most amazing healer, incredible healer. And she helped me so much last year. And whenever 𝗬𝗂 speaks, I mean, there's so much we can say, couldn't we? It was like, we did this most amazing healing session last year. And my youngest son crept on my bed and I was fast asleep. Do you remember? And he just woke up and I was like, oh. And I just think the whole, the way that I love you so much is that we do get to bring play and fun and enjoyment. And we're going to be talking about an incredibly serious topic that you and I both take so seriously, in terms of spirituality and faith and energies. But to me, that this is the fun, it's the playfulness, it's the femininity. And, everything that you've said was a very, very serious story. And yes, I have had some serious issues in my life, but the way in which I've overcome them is through the element of play, fun, joy, and love. And that's what I want to bring to this conversation.
And you are joy. That is what you stand for. I mean, 𝗂𝗍, joy. If you go onto 𝗂𝗍's website, we'll see joy, and you are. And being together, we always have so much fun. So I
know, so many giggles.
So excited. So excited for this conversation and what it brings and how it's going to unfold. And yes, I do remember that healing with your son. And that's it.
I had a heart attack.
I know, that's what I was worried about. Like, I felt your entire bodies just kind of go, ah! But we helped we brought it all down.
We came back, didn't we?
Exactly. And 𝗂𝗍, tell us a little bit about, I'd love you to share about, you and your work. And the work that you do is incredible. You bring so much joy to so many people. I wondered if you could start with sharing what in your own words, what is your mission in this incarnation? What would you say it is?
I love that. What's my mission in this incarnation? I went on a spiritual journey in 2013, 2014, when I left my big corporate job, as you said, I'm an IT consultant turned life consultant. And in 2014, there were certain things that are happening in my life that made me make the decision to leave a career that I loved in favor of actually choosing my family, my health, my life as a priority and finding other ways. And in that moment, I was on a very long period of gardening leave, and somebody handed me the book, The Secret. And if you'd asked me in the preceding years, would I ever come on a podcast to talk about light conversations and energies and dragons and healing and joy and all of these things, I would have said absolutely not. But because I was given this book and I had the curiosity to read it, it started to help me understand the connection of spirit within me and the connection of spirit outside of me. And it began this path of, well, it was this path of curiosity and play and fun. And let's go and see what this is all about. And on that journey, I felt a deeper and deeper connection with myself. And it was during my own practice of stillness, which I didn't know that was meditation at the time. It was just this introversion of, well, let's see what I've got to say. And it was very much during one of these connections with myself, with my higher self or my inner self. Sometimes, I don't know about you, teacher, but sometimes it comes from a higher self and sometimes it comes from a within self. And I never know which way it's going to come. It's just an opening to receive. And the message was, I was like, what is my mission now? And the mission I have in this incarnation, as you so beautifully asked me, is my mission is joy. That was what was said to me. Your mission is joy. Your mission here is to spread joy, love, peace, and abundance to as many people as you can. Your mission is to make sure that every single woman or man being never walks alone, so that when they are going through these difficult times, they have access to peace, love, joy, and abundance to help them guide their path through the darkness. And ultimately, when I started to hear that, mission, I didn't really know what that was. And then the universe gave me the dark times and it gave me the hard. And it said, we're giving you this so that you can find your way through, so that you can then get through it to help others when they're in it. And I didn't realize that was what was happening at the time. But fast forward, 11 years, I look back and that's exactly what has happened. As my dad said, you've been buried under a pile of crap, Ali, but the most beautiful roses grow through the darkness and become a rose. Hence, the rose is the emblem of all of or the symbol of strength. It's the symbol of beauty. It's a symbol of love, to grow through the dark times. As Dad said, they used to throw manure all over the roses at the farm where he lived, and the most beautiful roses grew. So you ask anyone, I think, in the path and the journey that I've been on and worked with incredible people, yourself included, is that the most joyful, grateful, happy people are often the people who have had the darkest of nights, the hardest of times, but they've chosen to see the light to get through it. And I remember thinking, in the darkest of nights, James and I were just standing on the balcony, James being my husband, we were standing on the balcony last night, looking up. We turned all the lights off in the house and the stars have never been so bright. Did you see them last night?
I did. Yes. It was beautiful. So bright.
The darkest of nights create the brightest of stars. Yeah. And there we go. That was a very long-winded question, but does that answer?
Yes, it does. And, it touches upon one of the questions I wanted to ask really was around as well, this notion of the light coming through the dark times. And you touched upon the guidance that you were given. What was the support that was given in those times to help you to navigate? And I think there'll be people listening to this who will also be experiencing their highs and lows and their dark and the light moments. And in my previous podcast, I talked about the energies and navigating the energies of 2025. In my previous Light Conversation episode, yes. We talk a lot about the energies of 2025, and we're seeing astrologically, energetically, this year being a year of great change and transformation within each and every individual, but also we're seeing it play out on the collective level. What advice would you have for people now to support them? Is there anything practical you can give them in terms of supporting and to navigate these highs and lows and darks and light periods?
3 things have just come into my consciousness to speak in terms of answering that question. I'll take them in the order that they were given. Number one, when we talk about light in the darkness, I remember reading beautiful quotes. I was on When in My Darkness, I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of research, and I find words, my love language is words of affirmation. So words for me have so much depth of meaning. And one of the quotes that I loved was, when we crack, that's how the light gets in. So if it feels like and it felt to me like my life had broken apart, it had been cracked, it had been split, it had been almost like shattered. And I remember reading that quote thinking, oh, that's how the light gets in. But then I also then added that, well, if it lets the light in, then it can also let the love in.
Yeah.
And to me, in my journey, if you can align with love, if you can let that love in, if you can receive love, if you can choose love, then it is inevitable that you're going to live a life of joy, because it's what brings that to the front. So aligning with love is the first thing that I would say. Crack yourself open, align with love, heal with love.
Yeah.
The second thing that I think that can be really, really a helpful reframe for many people going through a dark time is that I chose to see that my hardships, that the challenges that I was given, that the loss that I felt was happening for me. Yeah. As I said at the beginning, I look back and everything that had happened to me ended up becoming something that I could help others with. I wrote in my diary that I keep on my desk that when in my darkest of times in 2016, I've been diagnosed with PTSD, clinical depression, insomnia, eating disorders, from a whole suite of things that had happened in a very short space of time. And I look back in my diary now and I wrote down the words, maybe one day I will look back upon this as a way that I can help and heal others too. If I can heal myself, I will be able to heal others. My first business ended up becoming Heal Yourself Happy. So I became a self-fulfilling prophecy in the way in which I chose to see it. It was happening for me. There was wisdom, there was a lesson, and I chose to see it that way. Another quote that I love was, not all storms come to destroy you, but they come to clear your path. And it felt like everything had to be obliterated. I look back and I think just before everything came crashing down, I was just like, I'm not that happy. Is this what it's going to be? Is this it? I want something more than this. And it was almost like the universe that we talk about. It was just like the energy said, okay, well, then it was just like, it was almost like the chessboard was completely wiped clear. It was like, okay, well, if it's not this, then it was like receiving the Tower card in tarot. It was like, bring it all down and you can build it back up. It was like, oh, that's what it felt like, but it was happening for me in order to build again. And then I suppose the most practical tool that I talk about and I reflect on, and it was something that was very intuitive again. I was not able to function in that time of PTSD, clinical depression, and all of the mental health issues. I had 2 young boys at the time, and I could just about get them to school and pick them up. But in the period of those 6 hours that they were at school, I was unable to do anything else. It was like I was lifeless. And the only thing that I could do was sit in what I now know was meditation, but to me, it was stillness. It was this knowing that I had to be able to hold my mind in the present, because if I tried to reflect on the past, it took me into such a depth of despair and heartbreak that I couldn't function, that it was like I sank even deeper into a hole. And I couldn't look forward because I had no idea what was going to happen in the future. I always had a very clear plan and a path, but everything had been taken away that I had no idea where I was going to go. So that made me very anxious and uncertain. So the only place I could live was in the moment, which is ultimately meditation. It's mindfulness. It was bringing myself back into that moment. And it was when I was in that moment, I chose to experience and feel happiness. It was like, I want to be happy again. I want to be happy again. And I was like, okay, well, I can feel happiness right now in my stillness without anything changing around me. So I can choose to feel happiness, and I would flood my body with memories or just a feeling of being happy. And in that stillness, my spirit spoke to me. I now know was my spirit said, write a joy list, write down a joy list. I've got it in my drawer. And I was like, okay. And I was like, what does it mean by joy list? And I wrote on this little piece of paper, everything that I love just for me was my joy list. And I wrote down all of the things that I would do just for me, like reading a book, researching, walking in nature, cuddling my kids, petting the animals, eating dark chocolate, being still, singing, dancing, all of these things, being in service, volunteering, being with my friends. I wrote them all on a list and I was like, okay, I've done that. Now what? And it said, do one a day. if you can do one thing off that day, so rather than being in bed all day, can you just do one thing? Could you prioritize just doing one thing off that list? Could you eat some dark chocolate? Could you cuddle your kids? Could you go for a walk? Could you do this? So every single day I started to do one thing off my joy list. If I could do one thing, I knew I was going to feel joy, not just in the stillness, but actually in the doing or act of being and choosing it. And I look back now, it was really fascinating. I look back now and look at the science of what I was intuitively doing. You look at that, and by just choosing one thing every single day, I was flooding my body with dopamine, the reward hormone. I was like, oh, okay, yes, winning, winning. The oxytocin, the love and bonding hormone, cuddling my kids, cuddling the animals, oxytocin, flooding my body with that. Serotonin, the feel-good factor, getting outside, being grateful in the sunshine, walking in nature, serotonin. And endorphins, dark chocolate, meditation, stillness was helping with my pain relief. So I look back now, and the acronym I gave myself was, how can I remember that to teach other people? It's get your daily dose. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, by just doing one thing that you love every day. Align with love and you will feel joy. And it was incredible that when I then look back at the science of every single one of those hormones that we all have the capacity to create for ourselves, this dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, when you do that every single day over time, you're flooding your body. The compound effect starts to take over, so that the only thing that you can feel is joy, because you're flooding your body with those hormones, which I find incredibly fascinating, that then also had this ripple effect, because every single one of those hormones helps alleviate pain. It helps you sleep better. It boosts your mood. It raises your self-esteem. So it was like this ripple effect that within 12 months, without any medical support or help, because I'd been to the doctor, they offered me all the medication you could possibly have for these diagnoses. And I said, no, I'm going to do it myself. And within 12 months, I had turned my life around. I'd healed the relationship with my marriage. I had started a new career. We'd moved cities, we'd moved homes. We'd just literally created the first step of, and this is where we're going forward. It was the foundations of the building blocks of creating that new life ahead. So for anyone who's in that darkness, I would say, write yourself a joy list, do one thing a day. And honestly, it's inevitable. You'll feel joy.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you, Ali, for sharing that. Oh my goodness. So many little avenues, and I really want to pick up on a couple of things here. I love that, your joy list. Yes. And taking those baby steps, as you were saying, it's taking those little steps. And there might be people who have, I know I'm one of them, undefined, an open root chakra. If your root is open, you might want to kind of rush ahead, right? We want to get ahead of ourselves. But I love that reminder that we have to take it slowly, take it baby step by baby step. You know, if you try and go up a ladder, you can't go up if you don't have the steps. You're not going to be able to make it to that third step without the second step, right? So it's that reminder. And I love the joy list, picking things one a day and just doing that one thing a day. And those endorphins, isn't that amazing how the body just knows? Our body knows.
Body knows.
How you intuitively, your body, your intuition, your higher self, whatever it was that you knew what was going to be good for you. And then retrospectively go, oh, look, the science backs it up. Yeah. And it's that same, it's similar to, you know, if you have a gratitude list, isn't it? People have a, you know, you have that, what you're grateful for, you're automatically feeling in your whole body, like you said, you're bringing this in. Otherwise, if you're feeling stress, you're just going to be bringing in cortisol, right? You're going to be bringing in the stress hormones. And then, like you said, we could spiral very easily into those darker, more stressful past, kind of, you know, dwelling on the past. So bringing yourself into the present moment, that is, yeah, like you said, stillness is bringing yourself into presence. It is bringing us to, that is meditation. And, you know, when we go back into, you mentioned, you know, we can go back into the future, go into the future, that causes more anxiety. Going to the past causes, you know, more
depression.
Stress.
Yeah.
It does, depression, exactly.
Yeah.
And similar to you, Ali, in my 20s, I was diagnosed with CPDST. So I was offered a medication, and I took the medication at the time. I was at my final year of university, and I did take it. But what I noticed within me, and I actually, and again, this is, please, you know, if you've been prescribed medication, this is just a conversation that Ali and I are having. Please check with your doctors. We're not saying medication isn't good. It has its place.
Medication can be very helpful.
It has its place.
If you're in a very, very difficult and dark place. I've worked with many clients who have used it in order just to lift them, so that they then have the clarity and the capacity to be able to do the joy list.
Which is what I need. Exactly. I needed it for.
There's no right
However,
or wrong.
after a certain time, I realized that I was numb and I wasn't feeling anything. So for me, it felt the right step now was, okay, actually, maybe I just need to bring in some other things into my life, because the feeling aspect of it, and like you said, your feelings of joy, what you brought into that time was a really important part of your healing. And, you know, I love what you said, through the wound, the light comes through. I think you said something similar to the Rumi quote, but through the wound, the light.
Rumi, it probably was a Rumi quote because I love it.
I think so. Yeah. But yeah, that's where the light, that love, bringing in that love that we all have within ourselves and bringing ourselves back into that, I guess, that place of, I choose to focus on this. Where our attention goes, energy flows. So bringing ourselves back to that. And I also love what you said around your love language. Yours is words of affirmation. You mentioned
yours as well.
No, mine is acts of service.
Is it?
Yes, such
James's is that. James's is acts of service. I remember when we were having the conversation about omelets. Do you remember? And I said, no, James's is James. I'm sorry, I'm talking for our listeners. James is my husband, and we recognised that. Well, I was always writing him little notes, and he was always bringing me cups of tea. But we were giving each other the acts of service that we desired. So rather than understanding each other's, we were almost like we didn't feel as appreciated as we could. So in doing and understanding our own love language, it was recognizing, well, okay, I will make you cups of tea and make you your omelette, and he writes me little notes. And then it's like, oh, I feel loved and appreciated.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And if anyone who's curious, you could just go online, you can Google
5 love languages.
5 love languages. Yeah. And find out what yours is, find out your partners, your families. It's, you know, really, really fun and really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And the other thing you mentioned was around, you know, these times of hardship, and you were really at this, you know, this point where you read a lot, you were reading and reading and finding out what works for you, what didn't, and you discovered books you would never have read when back in your, maybe in your I.T Consultant's life.
I was reading books on coding, _+ and JavaScript and all of those things. They're probably obsolete now, but yeah, that's what I used to read up on. But the books, I mean, I don't know if you can see on my shelf, I have quite a few of my books behind me. There's books everywhere. My family call me 𝗬𝗏. I mean, I've always been an avid reader. My mum and dad said that before I could even read, I would sit in my cot with a book and just pretend. Yeah.
Yes.
I've loved reading. I love reading for pleasure. I mean, there's my perfect ideal day, as I said on my joy list, was just to be able to read a beautiful book and be lost in the imagination of anyone or anything. I mean, at the moment I'm reading Kate Moss's books, which I adore, you know, back in the 16th century. So I love reading for pleasure, but I also find that researching and reading is also a pleasure. It's just a different one. It's allowing myself to be curious in this lifetime to form my own opinion. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in the shift from moving out of my very corporate job. I don't like to say professional because I feel professional now. It's just, I know I'm no longer an employee. I'm an entrepreneur with multiple businesses. And it's this choice to say, I want to form my own opinions. I don't want to conform to the norm. We have these incredible brains as computers. It's like, let me form my own opinion. This is what somebody says. I love a debate, but it's just like, I'm always happy to be proven wrong with a debate. But do you know what? Let me form my own opinion about it rather than just go along with the flow.
What I love about that as well, when you're reading and researching, it's also bringing, you know, things that you might not be aligned with your own current beliefs, but then you are learning something that go, oh, hold on a second, actually, maybe what I thought to be true, maybe that's part of my conditioning. And maybe it's time I can actually go, oh, that no longer feels true to me. And if it really resonates and it feels like truth, you know, I've had moments with that where it's like, wow, that is no longer true for me. And it's part of that kind of peeling back the layers of all our programming and our conditioning and thinking there is truth in this, there is truth in that, there is also truth in this. And actually now I align to a new truth. You know, for example, I will give you an example. I spent through 20 years of completely turning my back to my spiritual self. I love to read as well, like you, Ali. I loved my imagination. It really would fire my imagination. And I used to read tarot from a very young age, and astrology. I remember I would do people's astrology, not on a horoscope kind of way. I know as we were teenagers, everyone was like, "Oh, I love who are you compatible with?" And of course, that was fun as well because we all do that. But I kind of went really geeky on everyone, and was like, I had a book.
Love that geek.
I was like, oh, my little book with all the longitude and latitudes, and working out people's rising signs. The ascendant and their moon signs, and this is predates Google, so it showing my age. But we had to do that manually. You can go on now online and go to any reputable sites and type in your dates of birth and times and stuff, and it's there in a flash. And that was part of me, because I believe that when we come into the world from birth, we come in with all our gifts, and it's through the conditioning and all that we forget. And as we get older, we begin to remember again. So I'd carried this through, and my gran was a psychic, and we would have these amazing conversations, and it just felt normal to me and real to me. And then as I got a little bit older, I realized that, maybe this stuff isn't going to work in my university life, my career life. And I sort of shut that door for so long. And it wasn't until 2005, but I then came across Eckhart Tolle, and that began to reawaken and reopen that part of me. It was like, hold on, don't forget.
What a great book. I mean, Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now.
Yeah.
Love it.
And a new earth.
You touch on something really fascinating there, 𝗂𝗍, just, the pleasure of the research, the pleasure in discovery, the pleasure in going to find out. You enjoyed the finding out of people's rising signs, and now you can just tap it in and you've got it in a second. We've almost lost that, the art of curiosity. I think one of my favorite, if we're talking books, one of my favorite books has also been Questions Are the Answers. So I love to ask myself the question, is that what I really want to believe? I was just speaking to a client then, and she was just saying that she's got a big job and she's got big aspirations, and she just says, but I believe I can't have this big role and be healthy and have a lovely life and have a beautiful, loving relationship. And I was like, well, what if you questioned that and said, what if I could believe I could have? One of my favorite words is and. Why can't I be a woman of wellness and a woman of wonder and a woman of romance and a woman of wealth and work and pleasure? Why can't I have all of these things? And it's in that question, you're like, oh, I don't know. Why do I believe that? Hence, we go back to your conditioning. Where was I conditioned to believe that? And do I choose to continue to believe that? Or am I curious enough to go and find out whether I can have all of these things at the same time? Can I be a whole person? It was really interesting. She said, I just want to be rounded. She says, I'm feeling like I'm just so work focused. And I said, well, rather than calling yourself round, who wants to be round? Do we go with whole? So it was like, let's go whole. We'll go with whole. And then that brings in the beautiful word of integrity. Can you bring your integrity, which is ultimately the 𝗓𝒏𝒅. How can I integrate all parts of my being into one? And that's what I love to help people with, is like, how can you bring your whole self on the journey rather than just part of yourself at a time? It's like, how can we focus on all of these elements of our life and allow ourselves to be whole in one lifetime at the same time? Why do we have to leave parts of ourselves behind, or not even leave parts of ourselves behind? I actually don't resonate with the term going to find yourself, because I don't think you ever lose yourself. I just don't think it gets lost within you rather than lost outside you. I think all the answers are within.
We remember, don't we? We remember.
Yeah, it's a remembering. It's a revelation. You talked about peelings of the onions. And again, so many people look for outside inspiration. I found the inspiration within. So I think sometimes we can be searching outside of ourselves, whereas actually the answers come from within. Our answers, we talked about, the body tells you, don't look outside for the answers, because there's far too much, and Google will tell you 100 different answers. The answer that you need is the one that's coming within, that you're probably ignoring. We go back to spirit and connection. It's this in the stillness. People get frightened of the word meditation, I think, 𝗂𝗍, don't you?
Yeah,
I can't meditate. My mind's too busy. Oh my God, have you heard my mind? I mean, I can't stop thinking. But actually, if I can just allow myself to be still and allow myself to hear what I have to say, whether that's my mind speaking, whether it's my heart speaking, whether it's my soul speaking, I give them all a voice. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be still and listen to you all. And then I'll be able to find the stillness. Once I've heard you all, then we'll find the peace. That's it.
And there might be a voice in that. There might be an inner child in that, wanting to have its voice being heard in that moment. We might be going through, it's interesting you mentioned about your client saying, can I have that and that and that? And when we parts of those parts of ourselves that we have that are frozen almost, they're frozen in time, in the body, that in a child, that wounding or that fear that comes up, and I know Ali and I have talked about this before. These are parts of ourselves that just want to be heard. They just want to be like, hey, can you listen to me? Nothing to fear, that fear voice. It's just a message. And our body is constantly sending these messages to us, like you were saying. And like you said, we are always in search of what's outside of us. I have a personal belief why that is. I'm a very spiritual being. I don't align to any religion, or I do think that we have been taught in the last 2,000 years of the patriarchy that we have to place God outside of us. I mean, I couldn't say the word God for a very long time. It took me a long time to heal that wound. But now I can know source or God or the universe, however you want to call it. It's almost like we put it outside of us. And we go, oh, no, but you must speak to me in order to get to him or her, whatever, to God. But actually, we don't need the priest or the whoever it is to be in between us, because we have that relationship. It's within us.
Yeah, I think,
and that's
instinctively my response is I align to my own religion, and my religion is love, and the love is from within me, and the love is around me. It's I choose that peace, that love, that joy and harmony, they dwell within me and they are all around me. Yeah. Go back to what I said before. It was like sometimes I receive messages that feel like they're coming from outside of me. They come through my third eye and channel through my mind. Sometimes they come from deep within me, whether that's coming from my gut or my heart or my G center. It's coming from within. So I align to my own religion, which is love, that is surrounding me and it's within me. There's no limit. There's no definition. It just is. Yeah. That's my personal philosophy.
Absolutely. And we have that. And it's our own belief. We create that. We create those.
What do we choose?
And we choose. And sometimes, just going back to the higher self, or, God, is it angels, divine dragons, or unicorns, whatever beings? Yeah.
Remind me of my dragons. Don't forget about us. I can't remember them. I've got one dragon who's this beautiful crystalline dragon, haven't I? And I've got my Hermione, who's just like this. 𝗂𝗍𝗺 led me in dragon healing, by the way, if you think I'm going slightly crazy. But dragon healing, dragon awareness, just my dragons there, I feel connected to mine.
And so it's just having, and you use that word of awareness, and having that awareness, and that's what meditation does to us. It's not about stopping the mind, but when we have that awareness and we can be witness and observe all that's going through us, the mental body gets a little bit kind of insane sometimes. You get a little, I've got to do this and this. It's like, okay, that being in present helps us to come back into stillness, come back into our heart, come back into listening to the body. The body could be ancestral, because we've got in our DNA, we've got 32,766 ancestors that we can only calculate through science, 14 generations.
No wonder it's so noisy in our heads, 𝗂𝗍𝗺. That's all I'm going to say.
That's our bodies, exactly. We are not, and it's not always ours, is it? We're not carrying the stuff that we carry. We think it's our own. It might be ancestral. It might be the collective as well. It depends on many things, but sometimes we hear, and if we're very sensitive to energy, we will draw the collective energy and the collective what's going on. And sometimes all these thoughts are swirling around you and you're feeling kind of anxious about it. Checking in, isn't it, with ourselves and saying, is this mine, or does this belong to someone else?
Yeah. Or do I choose it? Do I choose to let it go?
And I think human design really helps in some way for us to understand parts of, if we've got defined or undefined centers. And I know Ali and I, another passion of ours is human design, so I thought I would bring that in a little bit here. But we can there are so many, I don't want to say tools, because it just makes it sound really, they're not tools, they're more than that. Technologies, like inner technologies, right? It's not just a phone or a laptop, it's not being a technology. So we have all these technology available to us. And if we're curious enough, going back to what you were saying, Ali, curious and saying, I'm just going to do a little bit of a self-investigation, or just investigation, and find out all this all the stuff out there that we can either align to, resonate with, or it might not. And trying different things and finding different things, what feels good for you as a human being in this incarnation, to bring yourself back into the whole, that multi-dimensional self that we are.
The curiosity, I think, was almost you asked me right at the very beginning, what would I say to anyone who's in the darkness? The curiosity is one of those technologies or tools or guiding lights. I think it was one of the guiding lights. It was like, can I be curious? The questioning, how am I going to find my way out of this? Do I want to find my way out of this? The curiosity is the questioning that liberates us. It's more of an invitation rather than a should. You should get out. You should do this. You should do that. It's like, well, how could I? It lifts you on a very different energetic frequency of, rather than force, it's inviting. It's rather than pushing, it's drawing you. It's a different energy. And I know you and I believe in huge power of the energy in which you do things in. So the lighter you can create the energy within yourself, within your head, within your heart, within your soul, the easier it is for you to be able to move forward. Whereas if you're dragging heaviness with you, it's not as easy. So curiosity, I think, is one of the biggest things that has helped me move through life.
I would agree with that as well for my personal journey, being curious and maybe questioning. I think for me, questioning about certain beliefs, like when you mentioned the word should, should comes a lot of the time from the standards and values of other people. I think one of the things that I really found valuable was looking at my own values. What do I value in life? What are my personal values? If you haven't done so, if you're listening to this and this resonates, maybe that's something to look into. What do you value? Because I remember the first time I did this exercise, and I don't know if this is the same for you, Ali, was, but I can't remember, success, let's say, should be on here. And I was like, oh, interesting, should. Therefore, if I'm saying should, or this ought to, this may be something part of my conditioning, my societal, my educational, family, cultural. And I remember going, wow, this exercise is way more deeper than I thought it would be, and way more challenging in a good way, because I began to get really curious with each word. It's like, is this mine? Is this actually mine? And then coming up to my own words. Integrity, you used the word before, is one of my top values, and I love that word. And bringing authenticity, what do we value? Because sometimes it's the shoulds are not our own, but it's someone else's. And like you said, if you feel like you should do something, it's not coming from within you. I think that's what you were saying, wasn't it? It's not coming
and I think the question to amplify that or deepen that for people is not only what do you value, but I found that writing my own definition of that value helped me even more claim it as mine, my unique definition of. So in 2014, when I left my corporate roles, it was like, okay, well, what does success mean to me going forward? In the past, success was the title, the paycheck, how fast I moved through the ranks. That's what success was. It was like, well, I'm leaving that behind, so that's no longer relevant. What is success? And I remember just letting my soul speak on the page before I even knew that I was connected to my soul, and it just said, love what you do, love who you're doing it with, and love yourself. And I was like, oh yes, that feels good. And then again, when I was in that state of deep, dark depression, it was, I just want to be happy again. But for me to choose happy, it was like, well, what is happy then? What is happy to me in this phase of my life? And I remember, right, let's define happy then. Happy is this deep feeling of contentment, groundedness, but with this tinge of excitement, of anticipation of what's to come. I was like, oh yes, that's exactly what it feels like. So I get to choose to feel grateful every single moment, and I get to choose to be excited about what's to come. What is joy? When I decided, right, I'm going to create a brand all around the word joy, I need to understand what joy is for me. And I was like, okay, well, what has brought me joy? Joy has been having peace of mind. It's been having the health of my body. It's been choosing to live and love my life in every way. And it's allowing myself to dream big and bigger every single day. To me, that's my definition of joy. So when I work with clients, often when they come to me and they say, I want to be a bit healthier, or I want to be happier, or I want to be more, whole. I'm like, okay, well, let's define what that is, because that's just a word. Until you know what it means to you, it is just a word. When we know the definition, then you know how. And a lot of people say to me, how do I do that? Well, we've got to find out why and what it is first, then you'll find out how.
Because each and every one of us has a different interpretation of that word. Ali's joy and definition of joy, and even love and compassion will be different to mine and will be different to yours. And that is exactly what we need to get into. So what does it mean for each of us individually?
I was talking to
feel
a client.
it.
Yeah, I was talking to a client just as a case example. If you're thinking about it in terms of relationships, I'm working with a couple who are separating at the moment, and their bigger goal is to remain friends. And they were conflicted. They didn't realize it. I said, well, what's your definition of friendship? And he said, well, it's connection and conversation. And her definition of friendship was something completely different. So they didn't know what they were trying to align to. They were aligning to something completely different. Her definition of friendship was going out and having a drink, and having fun. And it was like, well, you're both on completely different paths of wanting what one word of friendship is. But can you find what your joint word of friendship is, so that then you can align to that? Do you see the difference of when we're aligning to the wrong things? You said earlier, what you focus on, where you focus, energy flows. But if you're giving your focus and your energy to something that's different to the person you wanted to have the same thing with, no wonder marriages go wrong and separation. It's like,
that's frequency, isn't it? It's one's up here and one's down there, and you're like, oh, why aren't we meeting here together?
I thought we were going for friendship.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you. Yes, in your own interpretation, your own definitions are super important. And actually, it's really interesting. We talked about success, actually. One of the questions I had actually for you, Ali, you have run multiple businesses since your very successful corporate career, and you've been very successful with your multiple businesses. I'd love, for you, and you have, I think, just shared with us your definitions of success, and what has been your key to your successes in your business and your current business.
Oh, that is a deep question. Okay,
sorry, you could break it down. It was a few.
My heartfelt response. What has been the key to my success? Number one, the definition, clearly. Define what success means to you, because then you know when you've got it, when you've had it. Success is no longer what it was. It is loving what I do, loving who I do it with, and loving myself in the process. So I have a path to follow every day. Do I choose success? What is success? Well, I'm choosing to get up every single day and love what I do, which has helped me so much in terms of I no longer am loving what I'm doing. Right. How can I love this more, or do I want to let it go? And that's helped me make decisions in saying, when I've moved from Heal Yourself Happy into the Limitless CEO and then into my joy coaching, it made it very easy. It was, am I loving who I'm doing it with? Are these the right types of people I want to be having conversations with? Are these the groups of people I want to be collaborating with, partnering with, having those conversations with? Yes or no? Am I loving myself? Do I feel like I'm being that authentic self? Am I loving myself because I'm being my truth, or am I being something that I'm not? How can I get back to that? So I think that's been very pivotal in terms of the success of the business. It's understanding what my success is, so that I can choose it every single day. Or if I'm off it, then I can choose to go a different way. I think the other key things, you asked me my first question, what's my mission? Have a mission. If you don't have a mission, you're not going to get up. You've got to have, the mission is the drive, it's the vision, it's the focus, it's the passion for what I do. I see, and I have worked with over the course of my time, many entrepreneurs, they have the initial passion, but they don't necessarily have the drive to keep on going, because they don't realize it's their life's mission. They're in it for just making money or the fame, or it's got to be, no, the minute it's like, this is my life's work, I'm going to do it anyway. It's not about anything else. It's because I love doing it. And I think that's the heart of it. I'm going to do this no matter what. I remember I was working with a coach a few years ago, and I just started out again, and I didn't have any clients. I didn't know what I was doing. She was like, yeah, but Ali, you love this work. You do this whether you had clients or you were being paid anyway. And I was like, yeah, you're right. She goes, well, keep going, because the clients, the money, the fame, all of that is secondary to the mission of what you're doing. And I think some people get it the wrong way around.
So I love that. So it's the mission first. What's your mission? What do you wake up for,
money is the byproduct of the mission. Do the mission, don't choose the money first.
Yeah. So what's your mission overall, and then your definition of success, and keep doing it, and
keep wake up doing it. Yeah.
Bring joy.
And just keep bringing joy. Bring joy. Well, my strap line and if I can say to anyone, it's when you align with love, you will live a life of joy. When you align with love in terms of what you're doing, whether that be in work, whether that be for play, for exercise, for adventure, for fun, for travel, if you're loving what you're doing, if you're loving who you're doing it with, again, whether that's in work, clients, partnerships, families, relationships, you're going to bring yourself joy. If you're loving yourself, most important thing, 𝗂𝗍, isn't it, to love yourself? And I don't mean that in a vain vanity way metric. It's just like, I love myself. I love being with myself. I'm living in alignment with my values. I honor myself. We talk about spiritual beings in a human body. I love my soul so much that I'm going to look after this human body that I've been given so it can have the most incredible experience for the longest period of time. And I'm going to give her, I love myself and my soul enough to give her every single experience she possibly can in this lifetime. And I know that I've gone really woo for some of my friends who might be listening to this, but that is my belief. I have been given this body to look after, and I'm going to look after it no matter what. That's my mission. Another mission, I suppose, on an underlying level is to look after this soul and this body in this lifetime, give it the most beautiful experience you possibly can. And this has contributed this conversation to the experience of loving my life and loving who I do it with.
Love your life, exactly. And and the woo is now proving, the science is now proving the woo to be true. So
the woo to be true, and more people are more woo. We are what cycle 9, the rise of the feminine energy. It's all about the spiritual, deep feminine energies. So this conversation is going to land in the ears of people who are ready to hear it.
Yes. And we are energetic, spiritual or energetic beings. We are all made of energy, energetic beings having a human experience. And we're here to have it. And like you say, the body is our vehicle. We have to treat it well. It's an instrument, in Kundalini yoga, I talk about the body being an instrument and how we have to tune it and we have to, take care of it. The glands and organs of the body, it secretes the peptides, the hormones, the lipids that we need, which actually influence our feelings and thoughts. So we have to take care of the whole package.
And we go back to that integrare word, the whole, the integrity. 𝗂𝗍, I know that we have both experienced judgments of other people for our deep faith, deep belief in spiritual, in energies far and wide. And I think many people who may be embarking on their spiritual journey, on their light journey, may fear that judgment, may fear loss. I want to, if I can, use this platform to say, people who love you will love you anyway. My family think I am completely bonkers as I'm wandering around with my Sage 6 and moving bits of furniture, and as I meditate and I do my tarot cards and I talk about spirituality, and my boys follow me on Instagram and they hear me talking. They're like, Mum, what are you doing? You're weird. You're so weird. But they love me anyway. And I'm kind of like, do you know what? The people who love you will love you anyway. And the people who aren't ready to hear it, they will one day. I honestly, when I this journey and people are like, well, what are you on? What are you talking about? They come to me now, a few years on, and go, you know that thing you just talked about? Can you tell me a little bit more? And that is just so exciting to me. And I know that you led me through last summer the most incredibly powerful, not the one where Willie woke me up, but the one where I got this deeper sense of the more people who judge me for what I'm saying is only the fuel to my fire of my passion to get this message out there. Do you remember that one? Yes. It was like, oh, 𝗂𝗍, I got it. It's that. I've just been really burnt by some people, hadn't I? And I was so broken. And I was like, please heal me. And I was like, oh, this is just strengthening my conviction of my mission and my faith and my passion. So for anybody who's starting and who has ever felt that, let it fuel the flames. And remember that, flames are, yes, they can destroy, but they can also bring incredible light and they fuel the passion, and you get to choose. So we go back to this choice. Exactly. I could choose that could have burnt me down, or I could say, no, that's just fueled the fire within me and it's making me shine even brighter. So I think that's just such a powerful message. And I know it's been one for you to really embrace, and loving seeing you shining your lights brighter and being able to share this wisdom with the people who need to hear it, because it's such a beautiful, powerful message and a beautiful way to live.
Thank you. And it's interesting when we have these conversations, when we just kind of allow ourselves to say, do you know what, so I'm just looking at the timer here, I'm going to turn that off before it starts ringing. maybe I will talk about it and share it. And you'd be surprised at how many people will say, oh, yeah, I'm really curious about that. There's a lot of spiritually curious people out there.
It's like last week in our mastermind when I said to everyone, I'm going in and talking about my delusional dreams, my magical redwood. And you were like, Ali, I hope you're asking permission. I was like, no. And then everybody in the mastermind was like, I'm doing that. I'm touching that. I've got a magical tree. And then I asked on the internet, who else does tree whispering? It was just like the response for this was insane. Yes. I was like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one.
No, it's amazing. As soon as we start talking about it, people have their own little journeys that we're just, again, part of our conditioning. It's sort of we're taught that, you know, we suppress that. There's one thing that I saw last night on Instagram, Kyle Gray. I don't know if, you know, I'm sure many of you listening will know Kyle Gray, is familiar with him. He's written many angel books and tarot cards, oracle cards. He was on This Morning, right? Those of you in the UK will know This Morning, right? That's amazing.
And Kirsty Gallagher with the moon, she's on there. Kimberly Gallagher with Feng Shui. It's, you know, it's coming into the present because
consciousness is rising. We are
consciousness is
the
rising.
Awakening of consciousness, and we're all being
hand over control. Yeah, why not? Is Feng Shui has been described as little armies of energy like Pac-Man around your house, helping clear up all of the negative energy. Human design is understanding the energies within your soul's body. How do we clear it up? How do we clear up the energy in our home? The moon, how are we using those energies? It's just
the moon and the sun and the planets, the personal planets, the planets that are closer to us, Mercury, Mars and Venus. They are energetic. It's not a cause and effect, but we feel the energies. When we've got that openness and that willingness and broadening, opening our potentiality to kind of, oh, you know, these things exist. They begin to feel it and you begin to bring it in, and these synchronicities begin happening to you. And the fact that Kyle Gray can, you know, go on to This Morning and talk about angels, you know, I'll talk about unicorns and dragons as well. That'll be the next step.
Yeah, it will be. You'll be on This Morning talking about dragons. Oh my gosh,
that'd be amazing.
Wonderful.
Robert Edward Grant. I know you're familiar with Robert Edward Grant's work. He is a mathematician. He talks about sacred geometry and mathematics. Incredible scientist. He's been spending a lot of time in Egypt, right, working with Dr. Oh my goodness. Oh no, I've completely forgot his name now. But anyway, an Egyptologist in Egypt around the pyramids. And Robert Edward Grant working a lot with 𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏, who is very different in how he brings and channels information, quite the opposite of Robert Edward Grant. They were in the King's Pyramid recently, I think last year. And for the first time, they're seeing hieroglyphs, and they saw on the sarcophagus the Alpha and Omega. And Dr. Oh my goodness, the Egyptologist, he has never seen this before. And what they're saying is that we're seeing now in the chamber symbols that we've never seen before. And the reason for this is because we are actually becoming, as consciousness is expanding and we are evolving as humanity, evolving our levels of consciousness, we are now able, because of our rise of consciousness, to see these new symbols. There are people who have been saying that there's in the planetary system, there's Sirius A and B and C even, and there's again conversations that once we're in the right state of consciousness, Sirius C will make itself clear to us. I guess it's similar to, if we look at the 1500s. When did they discover Neptune? I can't remember. But if
it's all this revelation, isn't it? It's like we've talked about onions. It's the revelation of how much are we ready as a collective to receive the information of.
Yeah. And we're kind of, this year I think is that really speedy expansion.
Yeah,
that
we're going to beat it. I've loved this conversation.
This has been amazing. Ali, as we wrap up, I would love for you to share your amazing work, because Ali is an incredible businesswoman. She's an incredible business mentor. I've worked with Ali and I have been blown away by her, how she runs and operates in terms of a business sense, but also as a coach and the leader. She is the most genuine, authentic, open-hearted, joyful and fun.
Thank you.
leader. So what have you got coming up, or is there anything that you would love to share with viewers and listeners who might be interested in working with you?
I will direct everybody to my podcast too, 𝗂𝗍,
Yeah.
because I've just launched the podcast last weekend, which goes deeper into the daily dose. It goes deeper into joy infusion, about how you can infuse more joy into your life, the practical tools, the stories, and the strategies behind it. And I think it's going to be a wonderful place for anybody who wants to continue this conversation around spirituality and curiosity. You're going to get your weekly dose of joy, because basically, who doesn't need a little bit more joy in their life, whether it's bringing that joy into your physical being, whether it's bringing joy into your mental being, whether it's joy into your life, into your love, relationships, into your career. I will go back to saying it's when you can align yourself with love and your whole being with love, you will find and you'll experience joy. So I think that that's a lovely segue and step into joy, is to find me on the Joy broadcast, but you can also find me on the dailies on Instagram. I'm very prevalent on Instagram as a platform. If you want to know more about my offers and services, then my website is just 𝗓𝗓𝗏 Very easy to find me, but reach out always.
The Daily Dose, is that the name of the podcast? Daily Dose.
The Joy broadcast.
The Joy broadcast. And you're on Apple,
Spotify,
all of the channels where you can find the podcast. Okay. I will include the links for your Instagram handle as well, and your podcast in the description and the comments in here on the YouTube channel. So you've got access to that. So we'll put that on there for everyone as well. And it's 𝗓𝗓𝗏 as well. So have a look at our website. Is there any other last words of wisdom that you would love to share with our viewers today?
I think I've said it all already. There's an information overload out there on the internet, but the best answers are the ones that you can find from deep within yourself, whether you feel it channeling through that third eye, that you feel that stillness to receive it, that receiver of your third eye, receive the information, or allow it. I think we called it, what did we call it? It was a revelation, a remembering of what's deep within you. If you can do that, you're going to find your path. Don't look outside, look within. Yeah. And receive the information. Have your receptors open.
Yeah. Have your receptors open, be open to receiving. And sometimes, people find it, if it's challenging, might need some support. There's me, there's Ali, there's people around who can help you with that. But be open to receive. Open
mind, open heart, open soul. I think just openness, isn't it, 𝗂𝗍? I think you and I started our journeys by being open.
Being open. Yeah. Be open.
Be open to receiving. There we go. Final words. I hope everyone receives this message openly.
And we hope that you do enjoy this conversation, this light conversation. We started at the beginning, we talked about, we want it to be light. We want to have joy and infuse joy and love and play in everyone's lives. And light conversations is about not just the light, but it is to be light as well, because we are light beings and our light bodies are being activated now as we speak. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Ali, so much for being here today. It's been such an honor to have you.
It's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe. It really helps other people to find the show. So thank you. Thank you, Ali, and thank you, everyone. So much love.